which allows fans to mock draft against other fans. The Draft Professor Simulator features a first-round challenge, 5 unique one-round drafts. The Draft Professor Simulator features a second-round challenge, 10 unique 2-round drafts. All mock drafts are always picking against the fans and draft analysts which use the simulator. Every mock, every pick, every time. The Draft Professor also features ranked players functionality, where you can rank your favorite players at every position. Optionally, you can add tiers to your rankings to show what round you have the players graded in. The Draft Professor also features draft a team functionality, which allows users to snake draft a team of 22 players to demonstrate your my guys, compare player strengths, and discuss draft prospects in a way no other mock draft simulator can. Thank you for tuning in to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. This episode will begin shortly. Well, welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. Newt, Owen, it's good to see you on a Thursday.
It's good to be here. We started saying this last week, but this is just a nice way to roll into the weekend if you're counting Friday as such. And especially since I'm watching the combine right now, so we've been talking about it for a couple weeks. That this is kind of after the Senior Bowl, the next thing that we're looking forward to here. So I'm super excited for tonight.
How you doing, Owen?
Yeah, I'm good. It's always fun. I don't know. Maybe we need to start spreading these episodes out a little longer between recordings, because now me and Newt are starting to think a lot more alike, and it's getting a little scary. We had a little Twitter interaction. I think it was yesterday, where Newt made an article about his most recent risers heading to the combine, and he's jumping on the Jaden Higgins and Jordan Burch train. So
to be fair, I think we both arrived at Jaden Higgins around the same time. That was the wide receiver episode. But you 100% were up on Burch, way higher than I was. I went back and watched him. I was like, this guy's special. I think my only reservation was him getting caught between positions. But I mean, he's just a good football player all in all. So, the agreement. What's that?
He had a good day today too.
Yeah, he posted really, really good numbers. Great 40 time at his size and everything. So he's going to be one that's fun. But yeah, I agree. The agreement that's going on here is it's too much. We need to find some points of contention.
So, and actually, with Jordan Burch, I actually think you guys were higher on him coming out of scouting reports than I saw consensus, and now consensus is catching up to you. So, we have to learn to plant flags louder, earlier. That's one of the things that I'm learning from this. But we have a unique combine episode. As you guys were telling me what to put together and stuff, I was smiling and laughing as I was building some of this. So the entertainment value for me is starting up here. So hopefully there's not going to be a big letdown.
As long as we have fun, that's all that matters, right?
That is all that matters. So before we jump into all of the podcast content that we prepared, what do you guys think just overall, how does the combine affect your boards? Is there somebody that could move way up or down, or are you just checking things? So
I think for me personally, the Senior Bowl is probably the biggest thing in this off-season circuit that really does anything for me when it comes to what they can do, because that's more of a practice setting. You can move guys around and try them out in more game rep style situations. The combine, it's the underwear Olympics, so it's not really. There's only so much you can pull out of it. I think it adds added context to these guys, as well as just kind of you can use it to confirm things. And if not, if something doesn't match up to what you originally saw with how they tested, you can go back and rewatch their film with this new added context and maybe tweak it from there. But I don't really see if they run a great 40, I'm not bumping them right up immediately. Seeing that great 40 going back, like, okay, was that on the film? Can I see that there? And it kind of gives you just that's kind of how I use it more. It's the post combine film review is more of what I find of importance than the combine itself.
I like that. So for me, I look at it through two different lenses. As my own personal big board, I agree with Owen. I think that the Senior Bowl and the things that you see throughout the season are obviously going to be the biggest priority and then the biggest offseason exercise within the circuit. But I do like it for if I have groups of players or tiers of players, and I find a little bit of an issue kind of sorting them out for one another. It does give a little context in terms of, okay, well, if we're looking at two guys that play really similar, one's a little bit more toolsy, that'll eventually in the long run probably pay a little bit more to that benefit. One example today, I have Alfred Collins and Tyleik Williams graded very, very close to one another. And just like looking at the two of them, looking at what Alfred Collins came in with his measurables, I was like, man, that's some alien type measurements. Everything in the 90th percentile for his height, weight, and arm length was kind of a little bit like mind-blowing. And it makes sense. Like you see that on tape. I have written down that he's got an enormous frame, but just to kind of put it in context, maybe takes it where like, okay, if we're looking to, really, really slice the layer fairly thin, maybe that does give Collins a little bit of a bump. The other side for me, though, is as I'm writing for the Cheesehead TV draft guide, I'm looking through the lens of the Packers. And, one of the big things about Packers draft is they are really, really specific in terms of their measurements and guidelines for the day one and day two guys. So you got a guy that's got a terrible athletic score. That's going to be someone that kind of plants a little bit of a red flag for me. And I say, okay, well, if I'm looking at this through the lens of the Packers, they probably have a lot of this already on the backside of things. I'm just catching up maybe a little bit more to that, but I'm not going to put a guy up there that is outside of their parameters. And it gives me a kind of that full picture in terms of where I like a guy, but he is not a super toolsy guy. He's probably not going to be a Packer. And so that helps kind of put my board in a little bit better of a perspective.
So is Luke Kandra going to be a Packer or not?
I'm not writing for the interior offensive line group, but dear God, I can only pray. I think Bill was shooting some Kandra messages my way today. And I saw one he met with the Vikings, and I think Bill's quote was, Newt is screaming somewhere reading this tweet, and my heart hurt a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him come in tomorrow and blow it up with a solid RAS score, even like seven or higher. I'd be like, oh man, like just keep piling it on for me. I think that'd be pretty stellar for that kid. He's been fun to watch for sure. So yeah.
Cool. Well, are we ready to dive in? I think we actually, I feel like I'm actually at my day job because like we have a lot of slides to cover.
Owen, do you want to start first or do you want me to start first? I figure the best way to do this is like not have us double up on a guy. So
we can alternate. We can alternate like who goes first and which one.
Do you want this one to start with, or do you want me to take this one?
You can go ahead and take this one because I feel like there's a couple options, and I'm not totally sold on which one because I don't want to go super obvious, but at the same time, I feel like there's a couple.
Okay, I'm actually I don't think you were gonna take this, but so most likely to break the 40-yard dash record. I'm gonna put a little asterisk here. I don't think anyone's gonna break the 40-yard dash record, but if we're going with the superlative, my guy most likely to break the 40 dash record is going to be Darian Porter out of Iowa State. Cornerback that has taken a while to find the field, but he is a track star. He was almost a 3-time state champion in track and field in high school. He came in as a wide receiver, made the transition to cornerback, and at 6 feet 4 inches, he's got the length to give you some long strides. And he is a quick dude. So when I look at this, I'm looking at a guy in this draft who's probably going to be a little bit off of the spotlight, not taking anything away from Darian Porter. He's a top 100 guy for me, but I think that he's going to be, for me, the most likely one to break the 40-yard dash record.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple guys I want to shout out just because I know there's not going to be. I also don't think there's going to be anyone who actually breaks it. But kind of looking at this question more as who do I think is going to be have the top time at the combine, or closest to breaking it. That would be. You could always shout out guys. I think if he was healthy, Siobhan Revel would have a good chance of this. He's super fast in a straight line. I really liked his speed there. Kind of similar to what you said about Porter, where he's has the long strides, but still can get up to quick speeds. As well, I want to shout out. I just lost his name. I had it in front of me. And
Isaiah Bond or Tez Johnson?
Tez Johnson was the one I was going to shout out for the other one, but I think my official answer would probably be Isaiah Bond. That's like his one thing. I was flipping between him and Tez Johnson because Tez Johnson has that lack of body weight where if he's going to be that light, you're going to expect him to go out there and fly. Yeah. I just really watching them. I got more of the sense that Bond was the guy who could probably be winning a foot race between the two of them right now. It was oftentimes where Bond was just outrunning his quarterback's arm and Quinn Ewers at Texas, and he had to kind of slow up on there. So a lot of guys who don't love Bond's tape, I'm not particularly low on it per se, but that was always the redeeming factors. He's a stud athlete that you're really banking on traits of him there. So I think he's probably the one I would go with for the superlative.
I think I'm going to shout out one guy just because Owen got a chance to go in there. I think Arian Smith, also Georgia wide receiver. He's a guy that we don't talk about a ton. He's not really a high draft prospect, but the guy flies. And I think his name is at least worth mentioning in there. I'm still obviously sticking with my number one guy, but I think Arian Smith is going to look at that. Bill Sparks coming in with the assist there. I think Arian Smith is definitely going to be one where you're going to see his name up there, top 10 for sure. So I'll just pop that one up there too. But I agree with Owen on both those guys. Two burners for the wide receiver position.
So what running back do you guys think is the fastest 40?
I'll go with Dave. I'm going to go with Dalen Sampson. I don't feel really confident in that response. I'm not maybe it's tooting Bill said, but I'm gonna go with Dalen Sampson. I think Dalen Sampson will get the top 40 time for running backs.
How about you, Owen?
It's kind of tough because all the top running backs in the class, I kind of my holdback in all of them is none of them really have the top end elite speed. So I want to try to get it popular out there. Travion Henderson is probably the guy who I think has the best speed of that kind of top group there. But I do think Tootin from Virginia Tech is probably your best bet if you're just looking for just pure burner, but not in those top group of names there.
Okay.
I like that.
Bench press record. So I'm gonna just shout out Jordan Phillips. When I was putting this together, I was not confident in too many of the slides, but I was going to go with Jordan Phillips. But I think Owen, you were going to go first between you and Owen.
Yeah, I'll go first. Listen, I had a few names. I'll spare throwing out some honorable mentions just so that way Newt has a bigger pool to pick from. But I'm going to go off the board a bit here. It's not specifically a guy that I think plays with a lot of play strength, but I do think, and it's weirdly enough, it's kind of contradictory because I think him measuring in with only 30-inch arms at the Senior Bowl is actually going to help him out in this situation because as someone who does weightlifting a lot, is really interested in that kind of weightlifting and sports science, having that shorter range of motion, having less arm length there is going to keep your stamina up and be able to lift that. So I think that someone like Jonah Monheim might be able to put up the most amount of reps here just because he's a 300 plus pound offensive lineman, doesn't play with the best strength, but these guys can all put up 225. And the fact that he's 4 inches shorter on his arm length than some of these other guys, even 5 inches, I do think he'll be able to get some good reps up there. And I think Bill Sparks has a good shout out there too with Thor Griffith.
Oh, I like that shot. I wasn't even thinking that, but I do like that a lot. Owen, I'm not gonna lie. When you started setting Monheim up, I don't know if you saw my eyes, but I was like, oh shit, he's gonna take my guy. Like I thought I was like, I got a guy, and I think I'm gonna get away with him. And then you started like with the short arm length and everything. I'm like, oh god, he's gonna actually hit my guy. Jackson Slater out of Sacramento State, I think is going to have I think he's the most likely to break the bench press record. He's a guy that we didn't get a chance to cover, and I'm like a little upset we didn't, because I really, really like him. I think that he is a guy that is flying under the radar a little bit and has a legitimate opportunity to contribute and even be a starter in the right system, because he's so damn strong. And obviously a lot of that has to transfer to functional play strength, but like he's a weight room warrior. I think that of anyone, he'll be a guy that can. I'll give my first shout out. I think of like big names that we talk about a fair amount. Arianti Ursary has an opportunity to be a guy that puts up a good amount of reps for the bench press. Owen, I don't know if you want to pop in a couple honorable mentions.
Yeah, so I do again. I want to shout out Bill with the Thor Griffith one there. He is someone who has historically been someone who puts up those numbers. Jonas Savainia, even though he kind of contradicts what I said with the arm length thing with Sanheim, he's also one of the guys who has the best power, functional strength when playing in this class. So I did want to shout him out as well. And I think someone else would probably be looking at the D tackle room. You got a guy like Kenneth Grant who plays with a lot of power, who has that weight to like the size component to it as well, where you're going to want to just mass to be able to lift that much weight. So there's a couple guys in here who I think are going to have a good showing, but it's this is definitely a trickier selection than the previous slide.
Speaking of Kenneth Grant, like kind of off topic, did I see that he tweaked his hamstring today? Was that what happened?
Yes. I read that. Yes.
Okay.
I don't know that he tweaked it today. I think that I'm assuming the players are undergoing a physical, and that physical said, you've tweaked your hamstring, don't run. That was how I interpreted. Okay. That was how I interpreted what I read, but that doesn't mean that I read that correctly.
No, that's fair. It was one of those things where I was super jacked to see those three guys that we had talked about a lot between Graham, Grant, and Nolan. And of course, none of them did any like on-field testing. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I get it. Like they're all protecting their stock, but it was just a little bit frustrating looking to like how good this group is and not getting a chance to see them, but we'll still see them at their pro day. So whatever.
Bill, thank you for confirming that I'm correct, because I don't generally hear that I'm correct very much. So Bill, you just made me very happy. Okay. And Sam Teets wants to chime in. Dylan Fairchild on the bench.
Put $1 down for Sam with Fairchild. I like that. That's a good. That's
most likely to go viral. So I'm really curious what you guys had in mind when you suggested this as a topic. So
when I said this one, do you guys remember Powers Johnson last year, JPJ, when he had like the clip of him just launching the coach with the pad? Do you guys remember? I don't know if you can or not. That was like, to me, I was like, oh my God, like I could watch this clip over and over and over. And that was the one that kind of went through my head. There were a couple of others with like Braden Fisk and like Tanner Bordellini running his 3-cone. I think were some really cool ones. But I think this was one where this is a wild card. It could be, honestly, anyone.
So it's any player, any drill, just what's everybody going to talk about?
Who's gonna be the wildest? I'm going to go, wait, I got to see. Because I don't want to use multiple players for multiple things. So I actually just want to look back. Okay, no, I'm good with this. I am going to go with Josh Connerly Jr., because I think guys that are that big are not supposed to move in that way. And I think he's going to do some really, really fun things. Is it tomorrow? No, the last day, Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is. I think when Josh Connerly Jr. gets out there and gets a chance to go, I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch. And he's going to do some fun things. For those of you that don't know, Josh Connolly Jr., he probably is the most athletic offensive lineman in this group. He played mostly tackle for Oregon, a couple snaps at quarterback, wide receiver. Like, this guy was nuts. And obviously it's a lot of gimmicky stuff, but he's like the kind of athlete that can do it. So a lot of fun things with him, but Connolly Jr., I think he's going to do something that'll impress.
I like that one, Sam.
I absolutely love that one, Sam.
Yep. And Sam, if you didn't know, the first slide was predicting the fastest 40, and Darian Porter was Newt's guess for the fastest 40. So that was well timed right there. But Owen, what do you have for most likely to go viral?
Yeah, when I saw this one, my mind immediately went to watching the DK Metcalf combine, where you just saw this absolutely jacked, look like linebacker looking dude run a 4.3, and everyone was talking about how he's going to be a monster at the next level. And I kind of went with the guy who I felt like could replicate that the most, with Savion Williams from TCU. He's going to come out looking like $1 million, and then he's going to kill every drill. We'll see how he fares when it comes to like the actual wide receiver drills themselves, but like all the testing numbers, just the eye test, like I said, it's the spandex Olympics. He's gonna look great in shorts. So I think he's gonna be the guy. Like all the meme pages, all like the normal fans who haven't been keeping up with who's who outside of like the first round mocks are gonna be like, who the hell is this genetic freak out on the field right now?
I love that. That's a hell of a pick right there.
Yep. So I was going to pick Savion Williams, but I'll go here. I'll go Tyler Warren and Elijah Arroyo, just tight ends that I think that will test well.
Kittle kind of blew up his, didn't he? If memory serves me correctly, where I think it was him running the gauntlet was one of those. Back when he ran it was a really, really big hyped up one.
I hate to disappoint you, Jim, but I think Arroyo and Warren aren't testing.
Neither of them?
All the Penn State guys.
All the Penn State guys are doing the pro day.
Okay, so do I have let's see if I can come up with another one here real quickly. So I was actually going to also go Xavier Restrepo.
Okay.
That'll be a good one.
That was going to be one where are people talking about him enough? And I know that Bill really likes Restrepo as well. So
I like that.
Yep. Thanks for that reminder, Sam. That was a brain stall on my part because I knew that he was injured. It didn't register up here. Okay, next one. A highlight gauntlet drill. The Keon Coleman, right?
Yeah. That's a good
one. Well, it could definitely be the Keon, or it could be, shout out to other Bill, Teron Johnson, where he got absolutely drilled in the head with the ball and not understanding which way it was coming from. It's another guy where that was a highlight, if you want to say. I guess low light would be the better answer for that.
I was gonna say that's a viral moment right there. I forgot about that one.
I think I'm up first.
Yep,
and I was going to steal Bill's the one there with Eli Manor, just because I love this guy's hands. He's able to reach out. He has great body contortion. Another guy, I'll save my honorable mention for after Nuco's, but someone similar that I think can show out like some of these wide receiver drills, especially like going to like the back of the corner of the end zone ones where you're going to ask the track, jump, and really show off all those different elements of being able to stretch out and be a contested catch guy. I do think Imander's will be able to show out in those drills there. And then the gauntlet drill itself, I think his hands are great. He's able to control his body, run, and kind of track those balls at the same time. I think he'll be a guy who could really show out there.
Well, I'm going to obviously prove here that I'm the bigger Jaden Higgins fan. So I'm going to go with Higgins because of a lot of the things that Owen just said in the same light. But I think with Higgins, you got obviously his frame's a little bit bigger. I think his hands are really good. And I think this is going to be a really cool thing for him because, and I said it in like that article I think a lot of people are sleeping on him just because you take a look at the elements that he brings. It's everything that you want. And if he runs and tests really, really well, I think he's going to jump. But I think this will be a really fun way for him to cap off his his combine, because I think he's just going to pluck things out of the air. And I think he's going to run a really, really fun gauntlet drill. So I think he's going to be one for me. I was going to say Restrepo. I didn't want to like kind of double down on there. I respect Jim for popping that one in. So I kind of went with my backup, but I think Restrepo will be another one that is same kind of idea. Obviously, a different player with him being more of a slot guy. He's not going to have the length that Higgins will, but I think he's so good with his hands and he's so sure-handed that he's going to be a really, really fun guy to see run the gauntlet.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Pat Bryant here. From
I like
Illinois.
that. That's a great call out to a guy that just does not get enough love.
That's
you
how
got an
I was
honorable
thinking
mention?
through the list. I'm like, who's not getting enough love? Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna shout out, just kind of stick in the vein of the guys who really excel at the gauntlet drills, guys who can contort their body, kind of control that while running at full speed. I'm gonna go with Ted McMillan, just another guy who's kind of being slept on recently in these mock drafts. He's fallen down to like the 20s.
I don't get that. Like, it's almost like they found him awake in bed with a bag of cocaine, and they're like, "Oh God, this guy's undraftable now." I mean, like, it's just kind of how it feels. I agree with that too. I like that shout out.
Okay. Most likely to have a highlight passing session. This is not going to be a number of quarterbacks that aren't throwing. But
oh man, now I'm scared. I'm going to say someone that's not. I think is Tyler Shough throwing?
He should be.
I believe so.
I believe he's throwing, and he's going to be my sleeper for this. I've got like an honorable mention, but I think my honorable mention is it's going to be the same thing as, I guess I don't want to spoil it too much, but like 2 years ago when you got Bill Sparks, love to see it. When you got like Will Levis throwing the ball 800 miles an hour and you put any quarterback next to him, it's going to look different. I think Shough's got the ability to really push the ball to all three levels, and he's going to be a guy that shows out in this drill especially well. One that when you're just throwing with pads off, I think his ball is really, really going to shine. So I'm going to go with Tyler Shough.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys I can go with here, but I think I'm gonna go with someone who's coming into this with a lot of like question marks, based off the season he just had and kind of the trajectory he's been on, with Quinn Ewers, who is confirmed going to be throwing. I absolutely love Ewers' throwing mechanics. He got such a quick release, and where I think he could start to get in trouble as a prospect is when he's under pressure and things like that. So being able to throw kind of against air in the combine setting, I think his mechanics and his ability to have some pop on the ball, especially in those short intermediate balls, is going to stand out, and then it's going to minimize what he does poorly. I don't think the people who know or are in the know and like have watched Ewers are going to be like, this is going to solve anything for them. But I do think he's going to have some good highlights, and people are going to have some buzz coming out of those throwing sessions.
Yeah, I like that. And I saw what Sam said, and I was listening to With the First Pick earlier today, and I totally agree. You got a guy that's got like a little bit questionable arm talent, and you got a guy that's firing out of can. You don't want anything to do with that. And who was your honorable mention? Do you have one or?
Yeah, I was gonna shout out Max Brosmer from Minnesota.
Okay.
He's been a guy who's been picking up with some good anticipation. He's got some good anticipatory throws with some good accuracy. So a lot of these drills where we see the guys who have highlight passing sessions are guys who are like dropping dimes. Some of the it's either you're either super accurate and you're kind of leading guys and throwing perfect balls the entire time, or you're having an absolute cannon. It's one or the other for having to stand out like that.
So
yeah,
is Will Howard and Kyle McCord throwing?
I would have like it. I guess I would assume so. I haven't seen anything. The only two I saw were Ward and Sanders. I don't know if like Bill is checking that out or not. Owen, do you know anything to the contrary?
I haven't seen anybody not throwing besides Shedeur. I know Cam Ward's undecided, but everything else I've seen has just said that everyone else is expected to throw.
Yep.
So I was gonna give a little shout out, and it's gonna be an underwhelming shout out, but I actually like Dylan Gabriel for his accuracy. He's gonna be like if Bryce Young were to throw next to Will Levis. that would be him next to Suge. And it's definitely not going to be a highlight, which is why I would put him up there for my superlative. But I think Dylan Gabriel, especially if you're looking at like the honeypot drill or anything like that, he's got a lot of really, really nice touch. He can pass the ball, the lower and middle tier really, really well and have a lot of fun with that. So I think he's a guy that deserves to be shouted out a little bit in terms of his accuracy. While he can't launch it down like a Joe Milton, that's obviously the most extreme, but it's going to be a guy that I think will have some fun with like how he can just pinpoint a ball.
At this point, we should have just made a slide that says person we're most disappointed on not participating at the combine.
Yeah, that's actually, Jim, can we just hit that at the end before we hit the over-unders?
Oh, we can pretty much do whatever we want, right? It's our podcast, right?
I love you, like, to steal the words out of like Connor Rogers and Trevor Signal, like planning the pod on the pod. It's some seller stuff.
Yep. So most likely to raise their stock.
Okay, I think I'm up first here. There's a couple good options here, and I'll save some of the honorable mentions like we've been doing for after this. It's tough too because we've already seen some guys test today, so there's some answers that you would have wanted to pick before tonight, but it's like, okay, we already seen the kind of what these guys have already been able to do, so you don't want to double dip and be like, oh, take the opt out there. I'm gonna go off the board a bit, and by off the board I mean go talk about a guy that already has pretty high stock, but similar to Tedder McMillan is kind of falling off, and it's because there's a lot of stuff coming out about how he wasn't really a route runner, is kind of just suspect on what he's going to actually do. I'm gonna say Luther Burden, if he is testing, should be a guy. I think not only is he going to come out there and just show how good of an athlete he is with all the testing numbers, I think the wide receiver drill specifically, where a guy like Savion Williams, I'm using that more so to see if he can disprove what I saw on tape. I think I want to see if Luther Burden can affirm what I've seen and that people are kind of down on him because I think his average depth of target was 5 yards. And most of his, he had like 300 yards on the outside, and most of that was from screens. So like, there's a lot of people who are questioning whether or not he can be an outside route running type of receiver, or if he's more of just strictly a gimmick guy right now, and he's getting a little overdrafted. But I think he shows out, confirms what you saw on tape with the athleticism, and then in those wide receiver drills can show you that he has the ability to run some of those routes, have some good release packages, and come out and bring that stock back up from somebody who I think is on borderline of falling out of first-round mocks. I think in DJ's latest mock or somebody's latest mock, he was like pushing towards falling out and not even in it in the first place.
Man, sign me up for whatever world has Luther Burden still available at pick 33. I'm going to continue with the article I wrote earlier this week on my guys. I'm going to go with Watts out of Notre Dame, Xavier Watts, the safety. I think he's a guy that has checked every single box that you want for a defensive back, especially a safety. He has amazing center field ability. He's a true free safety. He, in my opinion, has some twitchy movement on film. He's got ball skills, like legit ball skills. 2 years in a row has put that on full display. Maybe some small knocks against them are going to be one of, like, if you take a look at his tackling ability, he's got a I'm going to knock the snot out of you attitude. He needs to refine the technique because he's got a little bit too many missed tackles, but still not even awful. But I think one of the things is if you see him post a really, really good athletic score this week, I think his stock's going to start to fly through the roof because you're going to pair the tape with a guy that's a pure athlete. What more do you want from a guy that went out and basically had the best season of any safety this year? I think his season was better than Starks. I think his season was better than Eamon Wari. So I really, really like Xavier Watts. I think that if he can go out and do what I truthfully think he's going to, which is just test like an absolute athlete, I think his stock is going to start to really shoot up, and you're going to see him top 50 and maybe even flirting with top 32.
Yeah. So I'm gonna paint with a wider brush here. But most likely to raise stock for me, it's day 3 wide receivers a little bit. So like guys like Andrew Armstrong, which generally are not inside somebody's top 100. Some people are saying it's not the best wide receiver class, but I think what I see is most people have about 15, let's say 12 to 15 receivers in their top 100, which really isn't that far off of last year, which I think 18 went. But more likely to raise stock is going to be day 3 corners, because I do think at the top of the draft, we're missing some corners. People have between 10 and 12 corners in their top 100, and 12 is the average historically for the first 3 rounds. So if you're a day 3 corner and you can run, you're probably going to move yourself up into the 4th or 3rd round. I think there's a lot to gain for any corners that you haven't heard people talk about outside of their top 100. I realize that's a really broad brush, but I could mention like guys like Zy Alexander, Noel Williams. Now, some people may have them in their top 100, but if they are sitting outside of somebody's top 100 and they run well, I think they're going to push themselves into the round 3 conversation, because I don't know that it's the strongest corner class.
Hey, Owen. I don't know if you can remember off the top of your head, and I know your like board's not fully done, but who was the last cornerback you gave a round 3 grade to?
Let me just double check it. I can pull it up right now. So many tabs.
While you're looking, I was like, so Jim, you say Zy Alexander, and I think that's a super great shout out, because he's sitting 96th on my board. So he's like right in there for that ability to kind of jump up. I see Sam's jumping in with the Za Frazier. I really like that. He's been a guy I think that is an absolute freak, that just I think level of competition and some other things. But like he's gonna be a toolsy guy. But yeah, Zy Alexander is gonna be a guy that's like right in my just barely scraping the top 100 for me, and he's my CB 11. So pretty spot on. Analysis. Man, it's like you do this 6 days a week or something like that.
I am listening to really smart people, right? That's my gift, is I can listen. Like, think about it, right? Because Sam was on that cornerback episode with James Foster. Yep. I saw 4 cornerback boards, and what I saw was like each of you had 4 corners in your top 15 that nobody else had, right? So we could look across those 4 boards, and I bet that there's 12 or 16 corners that are either late 3rd round or 4th round grades, depending on whose board you look at. It's those corners that run fast, that run well and perform well at the combine, that are going to push themselves up. And then even if Za Frazier, as Sam pointed out, isn't in that immediate conversation, testing well could push him into that conversation as well. And like, I think corner is a position that is, how do I want to say this? So teams need a lot of them, and they rely on the draft to supply themselves with scheme fits that they can put as, let's say, the 8th, 9th, or 10th defensive back on the roster. They're relying on the draft for that. They might use free agency for a starter, but they want to draft a guy. So I think there's a lot to gain, because I think that like 75 to 150 range for the corners, I think, is in a lot of flux right now.
Yeah. Who'd you have on?
So I have an answer. So this was before. I have to go back and rewatch a couple other guys, but so Jacob Parrish was my first guy out without a top 3 round grade. He's definitely gonna get back up there when I go back and rewatch his film, because from what the flash I did see, I liked. I just didn't get him as in depth as I wanted to. For a guy that I think that I firmly have outside of it, who could boost it up with some good testing numbers and get drafted higher than I think expect, I could definitely see a guy like Denzel Burke from Ohio State, someone who had good tape earlier on in his career, and then he slowly started falling off a little more. If he comes out and tests really well, the combination of him having that earlier on success and then showing some physical tools, I think that would be something that would get some people interested in thinking that they could snipe a guy in a kind of more shallow cornerback class that we talked about. It's a little less than normal that will get drafted in the area, so you're going to have guys who are going to have to go up the board that normally wouldn't. And I think if Burke has good testing output, he could have somebody fall in love with some of his earlier work there and draft him a little higher.
Yeah, we have some good shout outs in the chat. So Jalen Smith, Trey Amos, Quincy Riley, Azarea Thomas, or Azare Thomas. I'm sorry about that. And then Jacob Parrish. And then another one that popped into my mind was also Mello Dotson.
Yeah,
I don't know that when you guys did the corner episode that anybody had Dotson in their top 15.
I did not, and I don't think anyone did either. He was kind of like, for me, it was like that next tier of guys to watch and take a look at. Just never got to him.
Okay. Okay. To lower their stock, is this the Jay Higgins linebacker?
That's not a bad call out because it's just been like heartbreak after heartbreak. What did he run, like a 4.7 or 4.8 out of a guy that I thought was supposed to be like fairly athletic? That was something that was a little concerning. Shit, I forgot I suggested this one. I should have had a good answer. Oh, I've got an answer. This might be unpopular. Maybe it's not. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm way off. Like, and everyone's be like, "You're stupid, Newt." I'm gonna go with Cam Scatterbo out of Arizona State. I think that the Cam it's a cool down a little bit now, but like the Cam Scatterbo train was running full steam and then some after the Big 12 championship, and then even after the first round, or I guess the second round of the college football playoffs. Like, he was like talked about as a top 50 pick, and I like Cam Scatterbo. He's in my top 100, but I think that where you see him, if his testing does not come in, if his testing plummets, I shouldn't say does not come in decent. Like, I think if he comes in as like an average athlete, he'll be fine. But if he just botches it, I think it's going to really plummet his stock. So, and I like Cam Scatterbo. I think that his mentality is unmatched. His grit and grind and everything about him is something that I'd love to see more of in college sports in general, especially college football. But I think if he tests terribly, he could like really, really fall.
Yeah, I think running back is probably the spot I got drawn to the most with this topic specifically, because that's a lot of where if you're not an outstanding athlete at the combine, it's kind of hard. Like we saw with Bucky Irving last year. I had him as RB2 in that draft class, and he had a terrible combine, and he ends up being like a 4th or a 5th round pick. Comes out as a stud in the NFL. Like it was he had good tape, and he ended up showing good tape in the NFL. It was just the only thing that had him fall was that the combine gave you question marks whether or not he was going to be this like super high level athlete. And funny enough, I'm looking at guys in the running backs that are projected to be like not specifically guys who are borderline top 150. I think when looking at this, I'm looking at guys who would fall off the most, and it kind of racks up from at the top of the draft. I wanted to be hot takey and go with Ashton Jeanty just because I'm not the biggest fan of his long speed, and everyone has him as like this unfallible prospect that is like this elite player, number 1 in the class kind of guy. And I love him, and he's top 3 for me, but or top 5 for me, and he's
wait.
Not,
Owen, are you saying Ashton Jeanty's not draftable? That's just what I heard right there.
Yeah,
right?
I think he's.
You think he's basically like below Emeka Egbuka, right? Undraftable.
Right. I think he's Elijah Holyfield Jr. He's going to run a 4.8. No, I was debating that one just because I know that's one of the biggest weakness points I saw when I'm watching him. Like the few weaknesses he had was his running. So I think Ashton Jeanty could be a guy that runs slower than a lot of these people who are super high in him think. And then also just to throw it out there, because I know I made this take on Twitter, Omarion Hampton, I think if he ends up doing some of the agility drills, I'm not the biggest fan of like his wiggle and ability to make guys miss in open space. So I think he might end up being a little more stiff and high hip than people originally give him credit for, especially for somebody who especially for some damn.
Oh.
But for Hampton, a guy who
he wasn't your like stamp on it. He's your player.
Yeah, I think Hampton would be my more pick just because I think his stock up is that he's like this blend of size and pure athleticism, and if he has anything less than an elite outing, I think that'll start bringing people more into the area of which I am, which is like RB4-ish, which is where I'm landing right now, RB3, RB4, as of right now.
So
I really like that call out. Actually, I think like Owen, that makes complete sense. I think it's a great call.
So I want to piggyback on the running backs a little bit. So one of the other podcasters, his name is EJ. He's Wednesdays at 7. He did a running back board a few weeks ago, and it was a different running back board. It was not something that I had seen before. And I started asking him about like, okay, so how do you tier your running backs and things of that nature? And he said, well, it's based upon explosiveness, very similar to what Owen was just talking about. And to Owen's point, I think the running backs have a chance to lower their stock if they test and they're not explosive.
Yeah.
So any test, whether it's a jump, a long jump, a high jump, 3-cone that would measure agility and explosiveness, if a running back doesn't test well in such a deep running back class, it's going to hurt their stock. And I definitely think the Bucky Irving call out there, Owen, was actually really good.
That was a really good call out. I really, because I mean, it's true. Like he looked like garbage when you put his RAS score in, and it's like, oh wait, this guy's actually like what you saw in college is what you see in the NFL. It's like another trust the tape type thing. I got a question on this. Not like lower their stock. Well, it is lower their stock, I guess. What if Ashton Jeanty comes in 5'6" flat? There are rumors that he's that he's not 5'7", and 5'6" flat's short. But let's say like 5'6.5". What if he comes in 5'6.5"? Does that concern you at all?
So is he measuring at the combine? I know Bill said he's not testing, but is he measuring?
I would assume he's measuring
that number here. I
think Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors were like the only two ever to not measure at the combine. And as far as I'm sure there's more, but like last year they were the only two. Everyone else, like the guys from today, like Mason Graham and others, didn't test, but they still measured. So I would assume he measured unless he's really trying to hide his height.
It says he's only participating in medical and team evaluations at the combine.
I don't know. Maybe he's not then. Maybe he's really trying to hide the fact that he is. Saints. Who is it? No. Who?
Keep going, Newt. I didn't.
Saints running back. That's about 5'5". He was a kick returner.
Darren Sproles.
Yeah,
Darren Sproles. There it is. That's just like it just comes to my head every time. Like, what if it comes out? What if he does test 5'6.5"? Are you concerned?
I don't know if I am, just because if I'm okay with him at 5'7", as long as he's like 5'4", I'd be okay. Especially with Jeanty, he's such a rare person. Like I typically like to gravitate towards the guys who are more short and squat built, because it helps with their contact balance. They have good natural pad level and leverage to run and be able to even bring some pop behind their pads without having that lack of size. So if you're like 5'9", 5'8", 215, 220, like that's like I was a big Ray Davis guy. I loved him because he was just this bowling ball of a guy who also showed some juice and had some juking ability. Ashton Jeanty is like Ray Davis on steroids. So I think even if it's a couple inches, I'm not going to say it's going to benefit him, but it's not something like if I was worried, if he came out and his tape was he was stiff, but he could run fast in a straight line, and I was kind of worried about whether or not he was going to be able to have contact balance in the next level, and then it shows up that he's also short and maybe a little underweight than I expected, then I'd be like, oh, that's a little weird. Like I would kind of be like a Deuce Vaughn level of like, okay, I'm kind of straying away from that one. But Genty's a lot of aspect of his game was that he was already kind of on the shorter side, and that played into what he did best as a running back.
Yeah.
So I don't think him being a little bit shorter than what he's currently listed would really impact him as much as some other guys would.
That's fair.
Okay. I think we got 2 more of these. Most likely to disappoint. So apparently, like, we're definitely getting on the Nancy or the negative Nancy, because we're going like most likely to lower stock and then most likely to disappoint. Like, those are 2 different categories.
I want to point out, I think we end on a high note. Just like for the viewers out there, they're like, wow, I needed some joy in my life. Why am I watching this podcast? We're going to end on a high note. We will. I promise.
So I'm disappointed that Shedeur Sanders isn't throwing.
I like that call. I like that call.
All right. I'm gonna preference this pick. Yeah, I think I'm first up with this one because you went with Scatabo last time, right? Scatabo.
Yep.
I'm gonna take this in not such a negative light. And again, this is if he's testing, which he should be testing. We've already mentioned his name a little bit in the chat here. But it's not going to be that like, oh, this person is most likely to disappoint because they're going to have a bad combine. I just think this person might be most likely to disappoint because they're not going to have an absolute elite all-timer combine. And I'm going to go with Nick Emanawari. I think with this topic, especially not to be, like I said, not to be too negative, we come to guys who are coming into this and, you know, go Travis Hunter. I don't know if he's testing or not. Again, so this year especially, I think it's so weird that we don't know who is and isn't going to be running or doing specific things. It's been a lot of an uptick in opt-outs. But I think with Emanawari from South Carolina, he's the guy that everyone's like, you have to watch him. He's a freak. You know, even if like for like in Bill's circles, like me and Jim are in, a lot of people are like, we don't really have a needed safety, but if this guy's there at 30, you have to take him. He's just a stud athletically. So if he comes in and he tests like even slightly above average in some things and isn't just hitting homers in every single category, I could see people being like, well, I came in with such high expectations and I feel like I'm leaving disappointed. So I feel like that's where I see it's most likely that he's going to be disappointed.
I'm going to take, I like that. That's solid. No, I'm not going to, I'll do this as an honorable mention. For me, mine is going to be one that it might be only to me. And so I'll take it kind of in this light. I'm going to say Will Campbell and his measurables, because I think I'm still like holding on hope that unlike most draft professors out there, I have Will Campbell still listed as a tackle. I like him as a tackle. And I think I've gotten to the point where I'm like in denial about some things. And I think like arm length and mostly arm length are going to disappoint me a little bit, because I think at this point he needs to hit that 33 mark. I don't think he will. And it's going to be, in my eyes, Skoronski 2.0, which is fine. Like I like Campbell if he does make the transition in, and I'll adjust my board accordingly. But for me, I put a pretty firm tackle mark at 33-inch arms. If you're not, it doesn't mean like if you're over 33, you're automatically a tackle, but you can't be a tackle unless you have 33-inch arms. And I think he's going to come in and he's going to hit that like 32 3/4, and my heart's going to be broken. So that'll be my guy. When Owen said most likely to disappoint, I think Harold Fannin Jr. was someone that popped in my head a little bit in terms of a guy that's like, man, like the hype train is on for this guy, you know, setting records left and right. And I think that he's not going to test out like a freak. I think he's just going to be a dude that happened to be a really odd mismatch. And I guess is Bowling Green, that's group of 5, right? Bowling Green's group of 5.
Bowling Green is in the MAC with UB.
Yeah. So but he's still playing FBS football, so it's not like he's playing FCS or anything like that. So he's like, but he's playing against lower competition. He's a mismatch, and obviously he was able to take advantage of that. But I think he's going to end up being just kind of a dude. So I'll kind of piggyback off Owens with my honorable mention being Harold Fannin Jr., which is going to like just absolutely kill Ryan Sparks, because Harold Fanning Jr.
He has him
is
tight end
like
1, right?
tight end 1. I think he's got him like top 3. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but he's definitely tight end 1 for him. So yeah.
Well, yeah. Jim, did you want to put one up before I run down some?
Sure, I'm just going to say the entire center class.
I could definitely see that. When you start projecting guys in from the center when they never played center once in their college career, you're already not in a great spot. So I mean, definitely, yeah. I do want to shout out. I'll piggyback off of Newt's Will Campbell one by saying it's Will Campbell's wallet. Would be really upset if he didn't get 33-inch arms. I think that him or that more than anything Newt could ever say with having to switch his position on his big board, he's going to be more disappointed. But I think for me, a shout I want to give out would be Trey Harris from Ole Miss. He's a guy that he's like the prototypical like height, weight, speed dude who's going to be able to, play down the field, stretch the field, get some separation over the top of speed while also being 6'4", and could box out and jump up and everything. But I've seen predictions of him being like a 4.3 guy. If he doesn't run 4.3s, if he's like in the 4.5s, that'd be terrible. And I think a lot of his speed comes from he's a long strider, and I don't particularly think that translates well to the 40. Like you'll definitely get him to some top speed by the time he gets up towards the end of it. So I don't think he's going to be running a terrible 40 or anything. But I do think that I particularly didn't love his gait on film, and I do think some people are hyping him up a bit too much now, especially when it comes to his ability to press downfield.
Love it.
Yeah. Okay, and then we're finishing strong, so most likely to put on the best show.
I said we're ending on a high note. Like people were like, "Oh,
hey, that's just this segment, right? We still have a whole nother segment that we're doing after.
That's true. That's true. I'm gonna say Travis Hunter. Like I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Like, why not take the unicorn for the best show? I think that I don't know. I'm assuming because he's listed as a cornerback, he's not doing any of the wide receiver drills, is he?
He's not doing either side drills.
He's not doing drills at all. Okay, I take it all back. I thought.
Yeah, Bill said it earlier. He said Travis Hunter is participating in drills.
Damn it.
Yeah, we're doing this a day late. We could have predicted Shamar Stewart yesterday.
Yeah, it feels like I can't call a superlative on a guy that already has what Kent pretty much said is already a 10, basically. Oh man, best show. Let's go with. Now I'm frazzled.
I can take one while you think on it.
Yeah, go and take one. I'll take the assist.
So I'm differentiating this one from biggest risers. It's just gonna be a guy. I'm gonna put this here as like a guy who we already have at a certain spot, and if he performs well, he's not gonna move per se any which way. He's already pretty up high. And then it's just gonna be, it's just gonna be a lot of confirmation that he's just gonna be a good player at the combine. And my pick for this is gonna be Matthew Golden, the wide receiver from Texas. He was a guy that at Texas I fell in love with because he was able to separate. He was a great route runner. He was shifty. He showed some plus athleticism with the ball in his hands. He had a lot of stuff that you love to see in an X or a Z receiver that needs to get open against man coverage. But also when he was at Houston, he was like their straight line deep threat dude, and they didn't really they kind of started unlocking that a little bit at Texas at the end there. But I think once he gets to the 40 and when he's able to do some of those more deep threat drills and they really open up his route tree for the combine itself, to have him do some more of those deep routes and let guys like Shug throw bombs to him, he'll be able to show off some of that deep speed to complement what we saw at Texas. So there's going to be stuff that both sides of his game where Houston was one player, Texas was a totally different player, and he's going to be able to put both of them together and really show that all-around profile. And some people already have, like I know Joe Marino from Locked On Bills and Locked On NFL Scouting has him as his wide receiver 1. And like there's people who are already like super high on him for that reason. So I don't think he's going to be a super big riser when he performs well at the combine, but I do think it's just going to solidify and he's going to be the guy who's going to go out there and just show that, yeah, he's like he deserves going round 1. And I'm kind of mad about it because I really want him to be there at 30 for the Bills. I don't think he's going to be, especially after the combine.
I like that. I'm going to say this one then. I'm going to go with I'm going to get shut down again probably because I'm not as up to date, I guess, as I should be. Is Jahdae Barron testing?
He
haven't heard
better
that he's
be.
not.
You think he's not?
No, I said I haven't heard that he is not.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go with Jahdae Barron then. So I think that, and I've dropped on Jahdae Barron in terms of my evaluation. I got destroyed by the rest of the professors for this because I think that the guy is like around like the 30 to 35 mark, but whatever. But I do think that Jahdae will put on the best show because he's that tweener role for a cornerback where he's got the size profile to still play an outside corner. I think he's a nickel, but he's got the size profile to still play an outside corner. He's got an amazing weight to him. And he's still got like decent length, like 5'11", maybe he comes at like 5'10 and a half. I think he'll run a really good 40. And I think he's just going to be in a lot of the agility drills. There's like boom, boom, boom. He's really, really going to show out in there. And I think, all in all, his ability to kind of be explosive will be really, really fun for that. So I think that Jahdae will be, I'm going to go with Jahdae for my most likely to put best in show. And hopefully the rest of the professors can stop sending me death threats over my hatred of him.
So, Newt, one of the cool things about having the interactive draft simulator is that I can tell who people pick in mock drafts and what round, specifically round 1 and 2.
Right.
Where you have Barron, it seems to be where people are picking him. He's going to be picked. It just feels like between like 28 and like 36, 30, 40, somewhere in there. Like,
that's perfect. I love, he is number on my board right now. I have number 30 on my board too. Like I've got him just outside of a first round grade. He's a late first, early second. I think he's smart as hell. I think he's got good strength, and I think he's going to test really well because he plays that tweener role as a really, really high end athlete too. So that's where I've got Jahdae, and that I'm gonna stake my claim on that one.
Yep. So, and granted, we're using 8,000 people doing mock drafts.
Yeah.
As the judges of whether or not Newt is right, so we can make that decision as to should we be using the opinions of the general public to rate players. But that's probably a discussion for a different day. For the best show, I'm gonna go Ezra Thomas or Noah Williams.
I was gonna say AZ. That's a solid call out. I like that.
Yep. Okay.
I do want to be put on the record here on behalf of all the other draft professors that of the 16 true first round grades I have, Jahdae Barron is in there, so he's definitely higher than 30. Newt.
Way to hop on the train of like Newt's stupid and sucks at this.
Imagine having a Emeka Egbuka ahead of Jahdae Barron. Couldn't be me.
Look at Owen saw the coming. He saw the bridge being built, and he's like, "Hey, here's a canister of gasoline. Here's a match. Burn the hell out of that."
Listen,
thing.
it was getting too friendly here. We have to keep the edge.
The two of you doing that, that's what people are tuning in for.
Oh my god!
How else we supposed to build to our boxing match?
So, Newt, did you want to do something after this before we move to the next section of the podcast? Or
most disappointed that they didn't test. I'll just I'm going to shout it out right now, and I'm going to go ahead and say Mason Graham for me. Like, I love this dude for he's like Mr. Football to me. And then the one thing I want you to do is go out and put on, show your stuff, and go from there and plant your flag. And then he does it. And I'm like, come on, man. I get it. I totally understand the business side of things. And I'm not saying that he's wrong for not doing it. But, man, I really want to see him test because I want to see, are you this dude that does everything right and on top of that is a solid athlete, a stellar athlete? So Mason Graham's going to be one for me. I got an honorable mention if Owen doesn't toss him in there.
I'm gonna stick with the Michigan Wolverines and go with Will Johnson. He's saying he's committed. I know he's recovering from injury. He could have pushed it and participated in the combine this week, but he's saving it for the pro day in March 21st, which is probably the better decision. I am just disappointed because I am in club CB1 with Will Johnson, and I do want to see someone I want to see him come in, get the good measurements, run well, and not have any question marks when it comes to like his level of athleticism. And just like a lot of his stuff is just something that's a little bit here or there needs to get cleaned up with some over aggressiveness. But I do think he definitely he needs some good testing numbers, and having a neutral site testing experience like the combine would have done great for him. He would have been the guy I would have put in for like highest rise or big riser or put on a show, just because I think he is capable of it. And a lot of people are doubting him right now.
Yeah, I like that call out. I was gonna say Travis Hunter on top of it. I mean, dude, you're gonna be the unicorn of the league. Play two ways. Come on, like show your stuff at the combine too. Like take the whole thing over.
Is he doing like the testing, like the athletic testing, or is he just not doing anything?
He's there. He's listed as a cornerback. I'm assuming he's getting measured up. That's just I saw that for Bill said he's not. Or Jim, you're the one that said he's not testing? I can't remember.
Who's that, Travis Hunter?
Yeah.
I think that was in the chat with Bill.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
So before we move on to the next section, why don't we pause for a quick commercial? So Newt, do you want to introduce yourself while, Owen tends to his cat?
Oh, is that Mowgli?
It is Mowgli.
Oh, it's the culprit himself. FBI's #1 most wanted. I love it. So Newt Weston, you can find me on Twitter at NFL Draft _Weston. I have been kind of like running through some 3-round mocks per teams lately. I've been trying to make sure that I'm engaging with all of this combine madness. There was a tweet out from Ken Platt. And if you guys don't follow anything combine related at all, please right now, like outside of following at NFL Draft Fanatic, in Fanatic, and at Weekly Huddle, please go out and follow Kent Lee Platt. Like this dude puts on for the combine and pro days. At MathBomb is his Twitter handle. Just wonderful stuff that he's putting out. Everything Raz comes from him. But I've been like lost in just looking at like early Raz scores and everything. So you're probably going to see some of that stuff coming out from me, reactionary things. You can also find me on my website, www.zerotechdraft.com. I've been trying to write a little bit more, reference the article I just wrote on My Guys a couple times tonight. That's been a ton of fun. So those are the two places where you can find where I'm writing at. And then always here on the Draft Professors Mrs. Our Relevant podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern time, every single Thursday. It's a blast. If you haven't already caught on, we have a good time here.
Owen.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, I am a working scout for the University of Buffalo Bulls. I, for the most part, am on at Twitter at Weekly Huddle, and I'm here on Thursdays. I'll pop in the chat on other days, especially like the Fridays and the mock draft nights. I'll pop in and give opinions on some other things. I was in the chat for some D-tackle conversation last week, I believe Wednesday. So I'm always around, floating around the Draft Professor here on YouTube. But this is where you'll primarily get me, is on Thursday nights, taking it to my rival Newt Weston on all matters of players, and then again we'll eventually build to that major boxing creator clash, because everyone's clamoring for it at this point.
Yeah, and then
the fight of the century.
When Owen's not podcasting, he's literally herding cats. So you can follow the channel at NFL Draft Fanatic. I am Fanatic. It is the same on YouTube and Twitter. And we have daily draft content. This is our third podcast today. So today we actually hit 3.
Most days, Jim. 2. 3 podcasts today?
I've been a busy guy.
You're a madman.
Probably. That's also probably why I'm still single. But that's just the way life goes. So we have 32 GM mock drafts every weekend, including tomorrow. And today we also announced that we are doing a full 7-round 32 GM mock, April 11th, 12th, 13th. We will probably be combining it with the 11th annual Draft-A-Palooza, because the people who were doing it said they didn't want to do both. Apparently, I was the only one crazy enough to think we could do both. But I wanted to run mine and do it my way, and they said, well, we'll do it your way. Can we join yours? So,
nice.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yep. So that's kind of the channel. Like I said, daily draft content. So hit that subscribe, hit that like, and definitely appreciative for Sam Teets in the tweet, as well as Bill Sparks in the tweet. You can catch Bill every Wednesday, and you can catch Sam. I think he's been on our channel 4 times. So that's why you have to hit the subscribe, so that you know when Sam's coming out, because he's not on every week. So that's why that's important. But so believe it or not, like when I see a betting slip like this, I don't understand it. I'm like really good with numbers, but like I don't understand. So Newt, Owen, please explain.
So negative means it's more likely to happen. So this is hilarious too, because when I used to listen to With the First Pick and Rick Spielman was on there, Jim, you are the Rick Spielman where the man could not understand how Vegas odds work whatsoever. And I don't even bet. I just so if you're negative 115, what that means is you'd have to put $115 down to win $100. So like you put $115 down, it happens. Vegas pays you back $225 or $215, the 100 plus the 115 that you originally put down. So negative is always like more likely to happen. Positive is always less likely. That's why you see typically positive odds when you're looking at like large pool of like choices to pick from, like defensive rookie of the year. You'll probably see someone maybe with like starting out the season, like positive 400, positive 1100, positive 1500. So positive is always like you put $100 down, you win. Like if it's positive 1400, you win $1,400.
Okay. So listening to Newt, my interpretation of this slide is that the fastest 40-yard dash is 4.21 seconds. And the bet would be, does any player at the combine run 4.255, and you're basically taking an over or under on that time?
Yeah, this the fact that they're the same means that Vegas, like the line for this is like a wash. Like it's like, 50-50 basically. You got to pay 115 either way to win $100.
So
yeah.
Oh, what are you thinking? You taking the over or the under?
Personally, I think I'm taking the under. When it's this close to being like a 50-50 flip, and you're looking at numbers like 425, and we've had like multiple different options of whether or not we're gonna who could break it. We don't really have a runaway favorite. I don't think anyone's gonna get close to sniffing the record, which would be like I guess like a 4.23 or a 4.24, but I do think that it's probably going to be closer to being over. So this question specifically is the fastest time of all the 40-yard dashes is going to be slower than a 4.255 or faster 4.255. I think it'll be slower.
I think it's slower.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying it was going to be faster after when you said under. Like I thought you were taking the under for the 4.255.
Oh, yeah. See, that's confusing because, like, specifically with this one, because it's a metric of how low it can be as opposed to high. I meant to say over. I'm taking the over on it.
Yeah.
So you think that it's gonna be like slower than 4.255 and a half?
Yeah.
Yes.
Man, I was literally about to pull out because I'm gonna agree with you. Like I think it's gonna be over 4.255 and a half as well. Like I was gonna say there are 4 guys in the history of the combine that have run under a 4.25. So, or 4.25 or faster. So I'm definitely going over. I think this is actually kind of a weird line for Vegas to put out. And I'll go ahead and I'll give Owen and I some easy money there.
Okay. Most bench press reps at the combine. So over or under 36.5.
That's
Now we're
my
back to
start,
normal
right?
numbers here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with. I feel like I'm gonna be a Debbie Downer for a fair amount of this. I'm gonna go under. I don't think there's a guy like, even if I take a look at Slater, who I think he's gonna be the best. I think he's probably pushing it. I think it's gonna be closer than even the 40. Like, I think if we see anyone in the 4.2s for the 40, like, we're lucky. I think that you'll see like Slater or someone, maybe Monheim, get close to that mark, but I don't think it will get over 30. I'll hit 37 or more reps.
How about you, Owen?
And Newt is the reason that casinos stay in business, because it's definitely going to be the over.
You made him spit it out.
I
That
mean,
was
we ran
actually
down a list. Yeah, Newt's the reason why casinos stay in business with that one. We went through a whole list of guys that we thought had the potential to do it. I know Bill threw it in the chat that like Thor Griffith did like 45 when he was at I don't know if it was at Louisville or the school he was at before. He did 45 in the past. I'm sure he's not going to try to rep that many this time. Most of the time, these guys aren't trying to go for the record.
Thor Griffith's not even at the combine, so that one, you take that feather out of your cap, man.
Well, regardless, I do think that there will be several guys that will be pushing the 40 mark here, and I'm surprised it is this low at 36.5.
I'm going under.
I'm taking the over, but this is also going to go on record as the podcast where Owen made me like snarf out his drink. So,
I did not. No liquid left in my mouth. I want to put that on record.
Okay, so when I was growing up, okay, I have a sister that is significantly younger than me. I think I'm 9 years older than she is. So I could say the word galooly, and then she would have milk sprouting out of her nose at the dinner table. And if you don't know, like, Newt, do you know who galooly is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, and it's way before Owen's time. He's the one that hit Nancy Kerrigan's knee. He was the one that took the thing to her knee. I just thought his last name was funny, so I would just say it out loud at the dinner table, and it worked for like 3 straight years. Like, I could just get my sister just to snarf out her milk. So
how much did your parents
cool.
love that?
It was cool that you got it was cool that Owen got you to do that on air. I'm just saying that was pretty cool. But highest vertical jump.
Ooh.
Oh, I think I start with this one.
This
is tough because most of our best athletes apparently aren't testing at the combine this year. First off, I don't know how Thor Griffith didn't get an invite. That's despicable. But regardless, when I was looking at this, I was like, oh, like a guy like a Travis Hunter can maybe do it. I know I shouted him out for maybe most likely disappoint earlier, but like Nick Emamori could have done it. Or can still do it. He still get to go. There's some guys who I do think have some good explosiveness, especially on that defensive side of the ball. With I don't know if I just want to bank on one singular guy to do it specifically, because I know like Travis Hunter was a big reason why I thought this over would hit. And some of the other guys, like the linebackers that sometimes have a good showing here, didn't really jump out of the place either. So I think reluctantly, I'm going to go with the under. There's some wide receivers I think maybe could do it who are like the jump ball specialists, but I don't think anyone really has the juice in this year's combine to really consistently. There's not a big enough pool like I thought there was with the bench press ones.
I'm gonna keep pressing the ships further and further apart. I'm gonna go with the over. I think that with there's a couple cornerbacks that intrigue me as far as athleticism. Darian Porter, who I already mentioned, I think will be a guy. I think Zy Alexander is a guy that has some potential to, really, really be and show some explosiveness. along with some of the wide receivers. I think you're going to find a guy that is going to hit that 44-inch mark. And if it is Emin Warrior, I'm going to laugh my ass off just because Owen is sitting here saying that Emin Warrior is not draftable because he's going to test like garbage.
Did anybody hit it last year with the vertical? I know we had some big time
no
tests last year, but I don't know if
I
any
don't
of them hit
think
it last year.
2023 Quan Martin hit it. And Jason Taylor II came close. Jalen Coker was 42.5, and Daquan Hardy and Elijah Jones and Malik Washington were all 42.5. So they were close, but aside from that, no one last year hit it.
Okay. And
Yeah,
the next one.
I think the number is a little high.
147. Oh no, I'm sorry. 138. I keep looking at the max. I'm like, damn, it's a wild number for them to hit. Maybe I have to stop drinking.
You know what I find is actually the funniest thing is that the people that have the records, other than Xavier Worthy, I don't know that any of them had any legit NFL career. That's what this entire exercise, that's what I'm taking out of the whole thing. It's like, whoever has the record, do I even know who that NFL player is?
Well, Byron Jones is a big name.
Is he?
Like, yeah.
Who did he play for?
Byron Jones played for Miami, and before them, was it Minnesota?
Okay,
I think it's
I remember a Byron Jones from Minnesota. Thank you. Okay, I remember now.
But, all right, so like Byron Jones, but I will give you the last couple. 100% agree, Jim. Where it's like, who was this guy? Like, and like if you
Ernest, and then I know who Worthy is.
Well, we're these recency bias too. Like,
right? We don't. Yeah, but I mean, he did have a pretty long touchdown reception, right? So, in the Super Bowl, right?
Take that. All right, so 147. So that's 12 feet 3 inches. That's the longest, and then they're saying that it would be what 11 feet 6 inches, basically. So 11 feet 7 inches would be the line.
What we need is Kent Lee Platt's RAS score for a player on the same graphic, so we at least know what percentile 138.5 is.
Yeah, 138.5 seems.
Do you guys know what player made Kent Lee Platt invent the RAS score?
Oh, I know this.
We had the conversation in Mobile. I had the conversation with him in Mobile.
I think I saw it. Like, I think I saw you talking about it. Who was it? I can't remember.
Owen, do you know?
Not a clue.
It's Von Miller.
That's it. Yep.
They were trying to say he's like an athletic freak and how can we quantify it? And I thought the math was really complicated. And Ken said, no. He says, you're making this way too. Like, I was like, do I have to go out and get my logarithms book from like pre-calc? Because I thought everything was done with a base 10. He's like, no, the math was way simpler. So, because I was trying to figure out a way to implement something similar on Draft Professors. He's like, Jim, you're making it much harder than it is. Do it this way. So it's coming soon to a computer near you. That you can create your own with any metrics that you choose.
I'm going to go with this one with the under. I'm going to go with the under for this one. I think it's close, but Sam Teets is ripping me down. Yeah, Byron Murphy, that's what I got flipped up by. I'm going to go with the under for the broad jump, being under, what would that be, 11 feet 6 inches.
Yeah, I looked it up. It was like 11.5 is the. I think 139 is 11.6, and then 137 or 138 is the 11.5. So you have to jump over 11.5 to get this. Last year, we had a safety from Texas Tech and Tyler Owens who
Yep.
had 146 in the broad jump, and we had a couple guys at 136 and a couple at 135. And this year so far, we're like a full inch off. Like I think the highest was like a 10-foot 1 or something like that from the D line and linebackers so far. So it's going to be hard. I know typically it's like the DBs and the wide receivers that are the like the contenders for this award here. I probably am going to go. See, I want to go over just because there was one that hit last year, and there's always guys hovering around, that 11 foot plus mark. I think I'm gonna go the under just because I don't think there's this level of athlete. Like I said, these explosive athletes at the wide receiver position. Like there's got guys with build-up speed.
Coward. That's fair. I picked the under as well. So
20-yard shuttle.
Owen starts this one, correct?
Sure.
Yes, I do. So, we're back to over and unders at times now.
All right.
It's another 50-50 flip. So according to odds makers, it's going to be pretty close to doing this. I know. When were these odds taken, Jim? Do you know?
I was about to say it was the screenshots that you guys put into the group chat. So
Like 3 days ago?
It was 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm curious to see if these lines have moved at all with guys having opted out of testing, like some of the higher level athletes, to see how much impact those guys had of like that weight on their decision at all. This is another one where it's kind of hard to tell because there's some guys who randomly pop off in this, and this is also one of the drills where it's like one of the fewest compete in it. Like I feel like every year there's like a drill, whether it's the shuttle or sometimes the 3-cone gets avoided a lot recently, where guys are just refusing to test in it. I think if I was to pick anybody to actually hit this, I'd maybe be like Jacob Parrish, like a slot corner guy, really go change of direction. I'll probably take the over just because I'm not too confident in a lot of guys, especially in their short area quickness. I found a lot of my problems with this class with guys that I'm a little lower on it because of their short area quickness. So I'm just going to carry that kind of sense over into this answer here.
I'm gonna go under, and I'm gonna stake my claim right now that Tez Johnson is gonna be the one to have the highest one in this draft class and be underneath that mark. So I'm gonna go Tez Johnson under 3,955.
Cool. And whoops, wrong screen. There we go. And the fastest 3-cone.
Ah, damn it! This is me. I like it when Owen's got to think on screen and I don't have to.
What is the number? 655.
5'5". All right. Well, I'm just looking.
Yeah, like looking at the participants last year, like not even half of the people did this drill.
Yeah. Also, I'm realizing how
like according to
athlete. Look for it.
I would say this is all according to Pro Football Reference. Go ahead, talk about our freaks here.
Well, I was gonna say I didn't realize that Zion McCollum was like this much of an actual freak. This guy is like testing in like the second percentile or in the 98th percentile for everything. As I'm like looking through historical data. 3-cone, I'm gonna go with over as well. Just because I feel like there's similarities, obviously both being agility drills. And I think that there are some guys that are like really, really good movers in this class in that short area. So I'm gonna go with did I say over? I'm gonna say under. I'm gonna say under 6,555 for the 3-cone. Though I do acknowledge what Owen's saying, like there are not a lot of guys that do this drill at the combine.
Yep. And just to point out, Sam Teets is giving us the percentiles in the chat, and I wasn't paying close enough attention. So the 395 on the previous was 97th percentile, and the 138 would be 99th percentile. So they definitely
Also, shout out Santeets in the comments there, shouting out Akil Glass.
Yeah. So my instincts would be to take the under on all of these if you have to be like 90 whatever percentile. Because like just me being me, I'm like, if I can strive to be like 50th percentile in all I do in life, like the 90 whatever percentile just seems like so far away.
Oh, that's fair. What do you got, Owen?
Yeah, I definitely think that there's. I'm glad you took the I'm glad you took the under, because like there's a couple guys in this class I think could potentially do it. It's more so the question of, are those guys gonna test? Like, are they actually gonna go through with it?
Yeah.
And I probably would bet on that some of the favorites for it won't. So taking the over is probably my safest bet.
That's fair.
Okay.
Is that the last one? That's it.
That was it. This was a well put together idea. Like, I didn't, like, again, it's one of those things. I see you guys talking in the chat about, okay, we're going to do combine preview. I didn't see exactly how it was going to come together, but like, okay, that was actually kind of fun. And I learned a few things and was thoroughly entertained, which is the entire goal.
Jim, my favorite comment from you over the week was when Owen and Newt talk, it's like they're speaking a different language. And I just follow along with it.
Yeah, like, it's cool to see you two go back and forth on Twitter. It's cool to see two of you go back and forth on a podcast. So this is working out really well. So but we have also been going for 90 minutes. So Sam, it's great to see you in the chat. So thank you.
Thank you, Sam. You're awesome. We love you.
Bill Sparks, same thing. So you spend all day in Indianapolis at the Combine, and then he checks out the podcast at night. So, Bill, thank you again. For the 42 draft professors, for Newt, for Owen, myself, thank you for watching. We will see you on a podcast again tomorrow, everybody. Thank you very much.